Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Students of the Word. This is session number 102. And tonight we are going to mostly finish, the antepenultimate paragraph. We're in the last sentence of the second to last paragraph of the entire epistle. So we are starting in the home stretch here. And tonight we're gonna finish. My goal is to finish the whole paragraph. I said perhaps the last because we'll see. We have another sentence to go, and then I want to kind of think about the big picture of this paragraph. But the last sentence, I think, is relatively simple. So we may get a chance to sort of step back and look at this whole paragraph to try to make sure we're following this, again, in my opinion, most difficult to understand of all 17 paragraphs so far. But let's go ahead to where we are, which is verse 12 of chapter 5, aka the last sentence of paragraph 17. He who has the Son has the life. He who does not have the Son of God does not have the life. Now, I'm assuming in verse 12 here that the word is Zoe, just like we were doing Zoe before, the Zoe, the Zoe of the age Zoe, in the previous sentence. We're building off that, so I'm assuming yes, Zoe both times. This is a fun sentence. One of the things that makes this sentence fun is that I think I accurately predicted all the words in it. Having is ekon, eke, right? We get that 3 times. The one having the Son, 4 times. Having the Son has life. The one not having the Son does not have life. So we get the same verb 4 separate times. And it's the verb we're very familiar with. It's just that generic to be in possession of verb, which has occasionally given us trouble, but not usually, right? So the having the Son one has life. And I'm gonna guess, because I'm trying to get better at these definite articles now, the ten zoen here, we're using the definite article because it's the life we were just talking about, right? Since we were just talking about the Zoe, right? And this Zoe is in his Son. And then he's like, the one who has the Son has the life. So it's like that life that we were talking about, that one, I assume is why we're using the definite article here. And the not having the Son of God one does not, uk eke tenzoin, does not have the life. So as I say, this sentence seems like deceptively simple. He's using his favorite construction, that present participle, the having the Son one, the not having the Son one, the me ekon ton huoyan tu theu. Having the Son, the not having the Son of God one. So he adds the of God to huion, to Son, the second time. But I think it's clearly implied the first time. So both times, again, as we've seen in that construction, the reason that construction is fun, and the reason what it says to me that it's John's favorite construction is that when he talks about people generically, instead of just using a pronoun, right? Somebody, or whatever pronoun it would be that he would use, rather than just using a generic pronoun to indicate some, sort of arbitrary or, person for argument's sake or whatever. He keeps using this present participle construction, meaning he's identifying the theoretical person by the action, right? It's always tied to the action. The one who does this has this other thing true of them, right? That's his favorite way to express generic people, right? The theoretical application to anyone. And so here, the 2 people that he's talking about are identified by the action of having or not having the Son. Um, Now, of course, I say that this is simple. It's simple until you actually think about what that means. What does it mean to have the Son? Because that's not where we just came from. I mean, we just came from the life of the age. Um, right. This is the testimony. Here's what the testimony is. The testimony is testimony, remember? That God is a nominative, so God's a subject, that God has given life eternal to us. God has given the life of the age to us. And by the way, this life, the life eternal to which I just alluded, and this life is in his Son. So the only link that we get to set us up for the one having the Son, like what does it mean to have the Son? If we have the Son, how do we get the Son? Well, apparently God's given him to us, right? Because we're just told that God gave us the life of the age. And by the way, that life is in his Son. So I was saying last time, it sort of sounds as if the life of the age, this special life that he's describing, sort of originates in the Son. It's in the Son, and God gives it to us. But instead of the image I had in mind at first when I was reading that sentence last week, of this love is something that is in his Son, and God is taking it and giving it also to us. Or maybe God gave it to his Son and now he's giving it to us also, but the Son had it first or whatever, right? Apparently, no. That's not how it's working at all. God is giving us this life, the life of the age. He's given it to us. Has given. That's an event. Aorist tense. Has given. It happened at a point in the past. God did that thing. He gave the life of the age to us. And oh, by the way, the life is in his Son. So if his Son is the vessel containing that life, he seems to have given us the whole package, right? Like the life and its package and its vessel. He gave us the life by giving us his Son, because we have him now, or we can have him now. The one having the Son has life. That's how you get the life, presumably. You have the Son. So again, what seems to be being transferred is the life, yes, but it's the Son that is being given to us. And through him, the life. The life of the age. And we spent a little bit of time looking at how John's been using that phrase, that concept of the life of the age, in the epistle so far. Last time we talked about that. So this means, logically, that the not having the Son of God one, what's up with them? Well, we're not told exactly why they don't have the Son. That is, do they not have the Son because God didn't give him to him? Give him to them? Are they just non-recipients of the Son? And therefore of the life? Or were they offered it and declined it? That isn't stated here, right? We may perhaps get some clue a little bit earlier on. Remember the business about making God a liar? See, what has been at stake? What was just at stake earlier, a couple sentences ago, was not having the Son, but believing in the Son. Remember verse 10? The believing in the Son of God one has the testimony in himself. And remember what the testimony is. The testimony is the life of the age that God has given to us. So now it makes a little bit more sense, I guess. We were wondering about that. What is the having the testimony? Okay, same verb, having the testimony. What does that mean? What does that seem to point to? Well, this is exactly the same language as he's using about having the Son in the last sentence. And we certainly seem to have one of those transitive property situations, right? We have the Son, we have the testimony in ourselves. The testimony is the life of the age that God has given to us, and it's in his Son. And we have the Son, right? So if we have the testimony, and the testimony is the eternal life, and the eternal life is in his Son, then we have his Son too. His Son also, right? So what we're getting here from verses 10 through 12, I mean, there are many things potentially that we're getting, but one of the things that we seem to be getting is this juxtaposition kind of thing he's done so many times before, where he says one thing and then he says another thing very similar, but it's not the same, right? And so therefore, by the juxtaposition, gets us to connect two things. And in this case, the thing that we're connecting is the verb. Believing in the Son on the one hand, and having the Son on the other hand. The believing, the trusting in the Son of God, one, has the testimony in himself. The not trusting God, no, sorry, the not trusting one has made, wait a second, has made him, God, a liar. Hang on, I'm confused again. I think I got confused about this the first time, come to think of it. It's the dative case with Theo, to Theo, that's confusing me here. The one not believing, so because it's not, oh, I see. It's because pisteuo takes the dative, right? That was the thing that was confusing me. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm remembering that now. Pisteuon takes the dative because it's not just believing, it's believing in the thing. Okay. Right. Right. It's intransitive. Belief is intransitive, so it doesn't have a direct object. Gotcha. Gotcha. Right. Right. And sorry, if you're not familiar with that term, an intransitive verb is one that cannot have a direct object. Um, so there's some verbs that you can use one way or another. Like you can just say, I see without a direct object. Or you can say, I see Bob, right? In which case it's a direct, it takes a direct object. Bob is the thing that you're seeing, right? That's a transitive verb. So again, we have these in English. Most people don't use this vocabulary, but it's fun to be able to speak precisely about one's language. So that's a transitive verb. An intransitive verb is a verb that doesn't ever have a direct object. Like it just does not take a direct object under any circumstances. And I'm trying to think of an example, and examples are failing me entirely. Um, uh, okay, failing to come up with an English. Hey, well, I'm staring at the word martyrion. Testify in English is an intransitive verb. You can't testify something. You can testify to something, but it doesn't take a direct object. It's just a thing that you do. You can testify about something, that is, you can attach a prepositional phrase to it, right, to give more information about it. But you can't just attach a direct object to it. If you said, I testify that, that's not proper English because it's an intransitive verb, right? So yes, okay, there we go. Right. But what world am I living in now, where in order to think of an English example, I have to use the Greek? Sorry, I'm not using the Greek. It's just what's in front of my face. But anyway, okay, yeah. So so there you go. So in Greek, pisteuon, belief, trust, is an intransitive verb in that way. So, Randall, is what you were saying. Um, and so that's why, although we're talking about believing God, or not believing God in this case, God isn't in the accusative, and that's why it confused me both times because it's dative. But it's dative because it's an intransitive verb. Um, when we say believe in, eis ton huion, that's accusative. Okay, never mind. I was kind of hoping that that was going to be dative and then it would help me, but it's fine. It doesn't. It's all good. Because ice into, that's the direction thing. We talked about that before. We talked about this. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. The point is, verse 10, the believing in the Son of God one has the testimony in himself. The not believing God one has made perfect tense there. Has made, like, is in the, has the status of having made him a liar because he has not believed. That's his status again. Perfect tense, action complete. He has believed, he's not believed in the testimony that God testified surrounding his son. So to not trust God, to not trust in God, is to not believe the testimony, is to not trust in the testimony that he testified. So he's kind of identifying those two things. He starts off with this, like the brief statement, the not believing God one. But then he like expands on that. What do I mean by not believing in God? I'll tell you what I mean by not believing in God. I mean, not believing in the testimony that God testified concerning his son. That's what I mean by not believing God. Okay. So yeah, we're not talking about like theoretical atheism here. We're talking about not trusting his testimony, the testimony that God testified concerning his son, surrounding his son. And if you do that, if you are in that state of not believing the testimony, that state of not believing God, then you have made him a liar. You are in the state of having made him a liar. You are accusing him of a liar. But like you've spoken that into being. You've made that happen. That's the verb there. It's the poiemo verb. So then now that we have that middle term of, and this is the testimony, the life eternal, when we come back here, the one having the Son has life. You know, the testimony that's in himself, the one believing, the one trusting the Son of God has the testimony. If you trust the Son of God, you have the life. The testimony is the life of the age that was in him, in the Son. So Jesus has the life of the age in him. And if you trust in him, trust ice into him, right? You trust into him, then you have that testimony, which is the life of the age in yourself. Because you have the Son. What do we mean by having the Son? Well, we seem to be back to where we were before, right? Abiding in the Son and the Son abides in you. Remember, what is John's favorite preposition? In, right? This whole epistle has been brought to you by the preposition in, practically, right? We are in God, God is in us. We are in the Son is in us. If you have the Son, you have the Father also. If you don't have the Son, you don't have the Father either, right? Where are we? What are we in? Are we in God? Is God in us? And both of those two things being so frequently mirrored back on each other, right? And I think that's just another example of what we're having here. If you believe, if you trust in the Son, you have the testimony, the life in yourself. And you have the Son also with the life. Because the Son and the life of the age don't seem to be separable. God gave us the life of the age, we learned last week, but it was in the Son. Right? That was verse 11. This is the testimony that God has given life eternal to us, the life of the age, and this is the life, and this life is in his Son. That life, the one we were just talking about, the life of the age. It's in his Son, and he's given it to us. So he gave us the Son. So again, how do you then get off not having the Son? How do you end up not having the Son? Well, presumably it has something to do with making God a liar, which is the other negative side that we saw before. If you don't trust the Son, because you don't trust his testimony that he testified, then you don't have the Son. You don't have the life. You've rejected the testimony, and the testimony is the life which is in the Son. So if you reject the testimony, you've rejected the life. And if you've rejected the life, you've rejected the Son. And so you don't have the Son. And guess what? If you don't have the Son, you don't have the life, because that was already the middle term. And he brings the middle term back, right? You reject the testimony about the Son. And therefore you don't believe God. You don't trust the Son, like the other half of the dichotomy earlier in verse 10. The believing in the Son, the trusting the Son, the trusting God. Yeah. So we begin, I think we do begin to see the picture here. And I'm interested in the fact, again, especially in that last sentence, of course, but really for several sentences now, the importance of the verb to have. And it's a metaphorical shift from abide, right? That was, it's one of his favorite metaphors throughout the rest of the epistle. Abide in the Son, and the Son will abide in you. Abide in God, and God will abide in you. And now he's talking about having. Do you have the Son? Do you have the life? Do you have the testimony in yourself? All those things, he talks about us having them. And presumably also the Son having us as well, though he hasn't stated that reciprocally. But yeah, the shift from abiding in to being in possession of. These are two different ways that he seems to be inviting us to be thinking about this connection, what it means for us to be connected with Jesus, with the Messiah, the Anointed One, with God's Son. Because remember the other thing, which he did not bring in this paragraph, but which he made a big deal about many times earlier in the epistle, and that is about us being the children of God, us being ektutheu, from God, having God as a parent, as an originator. And if we are from God, again, this connects us with the Son, right? And we can see him here connecting us with the Son. The metaphor being that we have the Son. We have the testimony, the eternal life, the life of the age, which is in the Son, in us. and we have the Son, and God has us, and we have God's testimony. And what is the testimony? The the Spirit, the breath, which also presumably we have, and which I bet has us also. Um, but yeah, as I say, the metaphor of having, of being in possession of carrying, holding in our arms, in our hands, right, is different. Um, yeah, that's interesting. Stephen is recalling John 10. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me, and I give unto them eternal life. And that is the life of the age, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all. I bet he's more mega, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. Yeah. Yeah, I can see why the having makes you think of that. And it's passages like that that make me think that although his emphasis here in verse 12 is on us having or not having the Son, I have a shrewd suspicion that the Son has us too, right? That's reciprocal, just as the abiding was always reciprocal. Um, yeah, yeah, but it is. I agree that that idea of God holding us in His hand and nobody being able to pluck them out of His hand. Um, I that's very much the metaphor, the having, the ekon, eke metaphor. What's the actual lemma? What do you call it? Echo. There you go. It's an echo situation. That doesn't make it clear to English speakers. But anyway, um, that's the having situation, right? Um, to have and not to lose. The only way you lose it, right? I mean, he's not talking about certainty of retaining the thing in your hand here. This isn't about that. But yeah, I like eke is to have it to hold things in your hands. And I can't help but remember that makes me think of, as I scroll back by about 16 slides, at the very beginning, what we have heard, what we have seen with our eyes, what we have gazed upon and our hands have handled. The different ways in which he talks about the experience of the word of life stuff. The handling with our hands is the thing, of course, that I'm being reminded of in thinking about the having here. But let's go back. Let me not do it in English. Let me do it in Greek. Let's go back to the beginning, not of the epistle, though I just did, but I mean of the paragraph. Let's see if we can now see more clearly the whole flow. Who now is the vanquishing the world one, if not the believing that Jesus is the Son of God one, the trusting? Okay, so we're connecting back to all the triumph, right? All of the vanquishing that was happening in the previous sentence. Vanquishing the world vanquishing vanquishment, right? That is our belief. Well, what does that mean? Who is the vanquishing one, vanquishing the world one, if not the believing one, if not the trusting that Jesus is the Son of God one? Specifically, that Jesus is the Son of God. That's the major issue for trust here. This is the having come by water and blood, Jesus Christ. That's the Jesus in question. The one that's the Son of God, that one. The one who is the Christos, and the one who is having come by water and blood. And not in water only, not just in water baptism, but in water and in blood, in this sort of special, weird, metaphorical blood baptism or something, which was his death. And the breath is the one testifying because the breath is the truth. And again, the testifying, this clearly in the context, when we read it straight through, clearly goes back to the trusting that Jesus is the Son of God. How do you know? Why should you trust that Jesus is the Son of God? Well, because the breath is the one that's testifying about it, and that the breath is the truth. For there are three testifying ones: the breath and the water and the blood. And these three are in one. If we take the testimony of people, we take people testimony, the testimony of God is much more mega. For this is, and not for, in that this is the testimony of God, that he testified about his Son. The believing in the Son of God, one, has the testimony in himself. Okay, so notice that he starts off the paragraph by making a big issue of the fact of like who trusts in. I'm losing my place here completely. Where's verse 5? There it is. Okay, he starts the paragraph by saying the conquering the world one, right? The overcoming the world one, the vanquishing the world one is the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. That's the issue. Do you trust that Jesus is the Son? And then I'm going to clarify. This is the having come by water and blood, Jesus Christ, not in water only, but in water and in blood. And the Spirit is the one testifying, and the Spirit is the truth. So he's alluding, the whole water and blood thing is backing up the statement about trusting that Jesus is the Son. Why should we trust that Jesus is the Son? Well, because he's not only Jesus Christos, but he's that Jesus Christos who has come through water and blood. Not in water only. It's not only that you should remember about his baptism, but you should also remember about his death. And these two things together, the water and the blood, testify about him. Oh, and by the way, it's the Spirit who testifies, the breath of God that testifies. The breath testifies, and the breath is the truth. So you see, there are three things that testify. Remember what we're testifying about, that Jesus is the Son of God. There are three things that testify: the breath and the water and the blood. And these three are in one. So obviously, we believe that testimony, we take, what is that? I'm forgetting lambano. Yeah, to receive, to obtain. Oh, this is the one that blew my mind because it was like it can mean take or it can mean receive. And the Greek doesn't, and in Greek, they don't care. They don't see any difference between somebody giving you something and you reaching out and grabbing it. Yeah, that was the thing that blew my mind about this verb. Anyway, come into possession of. We come into possession of the testimony of men. And if we do that, if we're willing to take that, the testimony of God is much more mega. Right. Randall says, as long as it ends up in your hands, that's all that matters. I'm trying to wrap myself around that. particular concept, but okay. Okay. Um, I'm not judging. I'm just saying seems to me an important distinction, in fact. But if they don't care to make that distinction, who am I to criticize? For this is the testimony that God testified about his son. Which is now why in verse 10, we come back to the one trusting in the Son of God. So clearly the pisteuon ais ton huion to theu person, right? The one who is identified as the one trusting in the Son of God is clearly the world vanquishing person we were talking about at the beginning of the paragraph, right? That when he talks about believing in the Son of God, what he means by believing in him, like investing trust in the Son of God, he's talking about Jesus. Though he's talking about the believing that Jesus is the Son of God one, right? So notice the shift from simply taking these two things and saying, do you trust that these two things should get the verb to be connecting them, right? We've got Jesus, we've got Son of God, and are you okay with putting the verb to be in between those two things? Jesus is the Son of God. Are you cool with identifying these two concepts with each other? Because if you are, then guess what? You're the world vanquishing one, turns out. But now notice it shifts from simply, are you gonna be willing to connect, to equate these two terms, Jesus and Son of God? And it becomes, in verse 10, are you going to invest belief in the Son of God? Right. And I think the difference here is that now Son of God, that phrase is simply standing in for Jesus. That is, he's taken the verb to be for granted. Jesus is the Son of God. The Son of God is Jesus. So to believe in the Son of God is to believe in Jesus and to believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Right? Like if you don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, then you're not even going to be tracking with verse 10. Right? So the one believing that Jesus is the Son of God is the one believing in the Son of God. And that person has the testimony in himself. And even before we are told in the next sentence, well, the next sentence is about the not believing one, but in the next verse, what the testimony is, or anything about the life of the age, we already have ways to think about having the testimony in yourself. What's the testimony? We were already told what the testimony was. Right? The breath is the one testifying because the breath is the truth. And there are three things that testify: the breath and the water and the blood. And these three are in one. That same usage of ice into there. Those three are in one. So you've got the breath, the blood, and the water. And they're in one. They are the testimony. They are the ones who testify. And we have their testimony in ourselves. What do those three things point to? The breath and the water and the blood. Well, we're told they testify that Jesus is the Son of God. And we have that testimony. This identity between Jesus and the Son of God, we have it. We are being given it. The breath has breathed it into us because the breath is the truth. And if you don't trust the testimony that God testified about his son. Again, just notice that even the way that that whole phrase, spelling that out again, that the testimony that God testified about his son, he's repeating what he said earlier on in the paragraph, right? To make sure that we were remembering what that testimony is. And if you don't trust that testimony, then you're making God a liar, which is to say that God's breath is not the truth, right? The breath is the truth, we were told just a couple sentences ago. But if you're making God a liar, you're saying that his breath is not the truth. So this is you rejecting the breath, rejecting the testimony, rejecting the blood, rejecting the water. And therefore you've rejected the Son. Because trusting in the Son was what it was all about. Trusting that Jesus is the Son. And this is the testimony that the life of the age, God has given the life of the age to us. And this life of the age is in his Son. And so we have the Son also. And the one having the Son has life. And the one not having the Son doesn't have life. And remember, once again, we're saying the same thing that he's been saying before. Remember when he said that what happens if we don't love our brother? Well, he said many things about that, right? One of the things that he said, if we don't love our brothers, is that we're abiding in death, remember? You can change your address from death to life, right? You go out of death and into life if you love. But if you hate your brother, then you abide in death. Let's look at that paragraph for a second. This is paragraph 10 I'm thinking of. The Cain paragraph. We know, verse 14 I'm thinking of here. We know that we've passed out of death into life. That's the address change. Because we love the brothers and sisters. The one who does not love abides in death. Everyone who hates his brothers or sister is a person killer. And you know that no person killer has the life of the age remaining in him. It's abiding in him. You can abide in death, or the life of the age can abide in you. That's what it means to pass out of death and into life. So you are in life, you are abiding in life, and life, the life of the age specifically, is abiding in you. And no person killer has the life of the age abiding in him. There is a certain connection with death, it would seem, however. That is, we know love by this, that he set out his life for us. He gave his life for us. And we ought to set out our lives for the brothers and sisters. So when we take our lives and we put it out there, that we are doing like he did, take his life and put it out there. And what happened when Jesus set out his life? What the NASB translates as laid down his life. When he puts it out there to be taken, what happens to it? Well, now we know. What became of it? Jesus' life. God gave it to us, remember? If we trust in the Son of God, then we have the life. This is the testimony that God gave us the life of the age. the life of the age that you can't have if you're a person killer in this paragraph, right? Um, yes, Jackie was being reminded by of John 8, the year of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. Now I'm wondering which word for murderer that is. Is that person killer? Anyway, when he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar. He is a pseustes and the father of it. Um, yes, yes, yes. The whole the breath is the truth and making a liar of God thing was making you think of that for sure, for sure. Um, yes, Stephen. Certainly, in some ways, this whole study of First John would have been a little simpler if we'd studied the gospel first. But I think it's really good to keep it on its own, especially since um, there would likely have been many people who didn't have it. That is to say, I am sure that John was thinking when he wrote this epistle that many people would be reading this epistle who didn't also have his gospel. Um, the state of circulation of texts being what it was. Haha! Anthropoktonos. It is person killer. I thought so. That was my guess. The devil is a person killer from the beginning. He was an anthropoktonos aparches, I bet. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yes, he was. And he didn't mene in the Aletheia. I feel like I can back translate it into Greek now. Yes. Yes, he didn't abide. He didn't abide in the truth. Yeah. The devil didn't abide in the truth. The accuser didn't abide in the truth because no truth is in him. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. And we have all the vocabulary now. Okay. Um, yeah, Jackie John's consistency is fantastic. It really is. Um, hang on. I'll go back for a second. I now think I understand better why he uses that word, anthropoktonos, person killer, right? Um, remember when we were talking about it at the time? Uh, we were in paragraph 10 here. One of the interesting things is that he talks about murder twice. Like in two, he talks about Cain, right, up in verse 12, and then he talks about being a person killer down in verse 15, right? And neither time does he use, remember we were talking about this, how there is a word for murder, like what you would be accused of if you you stab somebody and get hauled into court. Um, there's a perfectly good Greek word for murder, like you murdered somebody. Um, but he doesn't use that in either case. The word that he uses about Cain and his brother is like slaughter, like the thing you would do to a sacrifice. Like, not as Cain, who was of the evil one and slaughtered his brother. And for what reason did he slaughter him? So he uses one slightly unusual, odd, like he doesn't use the murder word when it's there. And then he uses a different non-murder word for murder down in verse 15, both of which, of course, the English cheerfully translates as murder, which makes it much simpler, but we lose this point. And uh, anyway, so he so here's my theory about why he's using that word person killer, like the kind of weirdly, I don't know what sort of clinical thing. What does a person killer do? Think of how it corresponds to what he just said. He just said that if we love the brothers and the sisters. So if we love one another, we know that we, the ones who love, have passed out of death into life, have moved from death to life, right? What happens if we hate one another? What are we doing? If we love one another, we ourselves move from death into life. If we hate one another, what are we doing? We're moving another person from life to death. Person killer, right? It is it's this kind of clinical word instead of the courtroom word, right? Because he's not interested in a murder charge. What he's interested in is merely the shift from death to life or life to death in the case of hating, right? So you're a person killer because in your heart, you're moving them from life to death. And when you are moving another person from life into death, then you know no person who does that can have the life of the age abiding in him. He is certainly himself abiding in death. Yeah. Yeah, it does make sense. Can't wait till we go back. We're totally, when we get to the end of the epistle, we're absolutely going back to the beginning and starting again. And I don't mean we're going to do one sentence a day for the for afterwards, but isn't it just eye-opening how much when you go back in this epistle now, how much more sense everything makes because of all of the context we've gained and all the vocabulary we've learned and everything that we can see, right? Um, so cool. Oh, Randall, sorry, I just saw your note from before. So the devil abiding, uh he's not abiding, he's standing or being established in uh he's not standing or being established in the truth. I see. Right, right. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to, as I feel like every single week I have to resist the temptation to go back and study the Gospel of John now, um, but there's time. There is yet time. Um, what is really, what strikes me as really important about this paragraph is the way that he's moving. We start with trusting that Jesus is the Son of God. The one who trusts that Jesus is the Son of God is the one who vanquishes the world. Like this whole paragraph is about what does believing in Jesus mean? Believing that Jesus, the Christ, is the Christ, the Son of God. And remember, this is the other half of the commandment, right? What is that commandment about? Well, again, we start with if you follow that commandment, you're a world vanquisher. But you vanquish the world. What that also means, what that also looks like is you have eternal life. You have the life of the age in you. And by the way, this is one of the things I keep being stubborn about the life of the age, not using the word eternal. And there are a couple reasons. One is simply the same reason that I keep using breath instead of spirit and all that sort of thing, and want to use Messiah or even anointed one instead of Christ. Um, because I'm trying to like break myself away from the kind of customary familiarity that leads me to not even think about some of these things. The phrase eternal life is another one of those things. Do you have eternal life? And it's like that phrase in many ways has kind of lost its power for me because it gets used so much, right? Because I've used it so much. I've encountered it so much over the course of my life. That's one reason, but it's not the only reason. The other reason is that eternal is a time word, right? Or at least it seems like a time word. One can make arguments, but um, but I can tell you at least the way that I always heard that from when I first heard this as a child, when I was first told when I was 6 that if I accept Jesus into my heart, I would have eternal life. I understood that as meaning that my life would not stop. That's what I always understood eternal life to mean, and that's how people talk about it much of the time. And it's really easy to think about it that way. Yes, yes, Devorah. I was thinking. Devorah says Boethius would like a word with me when I call eternity just a time word. Yes, yes, it's like immortal, eternal. We tend to hear immortal there, and yes, Devorah. It's because people don't read Boethius enough, in part, um, um, but but yes. So I don't want to. I'm trying to make sure I break out of that because it seems to me quite clear, especially in this paragraph. That's not what John's talking about. John's not talking about the life that we currently have just not stopping, or even like the life that we now have being overlaid with some kind of strengthening or improvement such that now, as if our bodies could be made death proof. Like presumably some kind of hardware upgrade would be necessary for my body never to run down and die. I have certain evidence that it's already running down, he says, touching the glasses he now has to wear. Um, I So like presumably if my body were going to be uh if my body were going to be continuing indefinitely, it would have to be upgraded. But I feel fairly confident that when John talks about the life of the age, he's not just talking about taking the life you have and kind of upgrading it. He talks here as if it's a thing that we get, that we don't have, that the eternal life, the life of the age, is not an upgrade, but a new thing. We have one kind of life, yes, but do we have this kind of life? This is the testimony that God has given us, has given eternal life to us. And this life is in his Son. It's so of the age works for me much better. Because if I think of the age, again, I think of that way in which, according to my own interpretation here, the New Testament writers are kind of taking that standard Greek idiom for forever, indefinitely into the indefinite future, and investing it with, you know, uh, significance from Jewish prophecy, right? The messianic age, the age when heaven and earth are going to come together, the age when God is going to dwell among us in the world. That age. And the life of that age is a different life than we have now. And so you see, this seems to me to be kind of revealing something new. I mean, it sounded cool. I'm going back to the same paragraph again. It sounded cool when he said, hey, we know that we've passed out of death and into life because we love the brothers and sisters. Great. Yeah. So if you love one another, you've passed out of death and into life. Well, cool. Life is better than death. But we have life already, right? But it turns out that it's not, when we're talking about passing out of death and into life, it's not just retaining the life that we have. It's being given a different life, a new life, the life of the age, not the life of this age, the life of that age. And he even hints at that. Everyone who hates his brothers is a person killer, and you know that no person killer has the life of the age abiding in him. It's about more than just life and death. The stakes are higher than life and death because both death and the life that we have are both different and presumably inferior things to that life that we're going to get, that life that we have been, that we have gotten, that life that we have because we have the Son, because we are trusting in the Son once, because we are trusting that Jesus is the Son once, which means, by the way, that we're world vanquishers as well, right? All of that is together. And even think about that. Think about world vanquishing. Think about the cosmos in conjunction with the age, right? Remember, the cosmos is passing away. But the light and the life those are the things that are, well, true light is already shining, just as we already have the life of the age. The age isn't here yet, but its life is. This is the wonder of it. This is the mystery. This is the miracle. This is what happened. This is all that stuff about God sending his Son. To his Son propitiation, that we might live through him. And again, see how different that sounds now, that we might live through him. Yeah, we might have life through him, the life of the age. In a foretaste of the age, the life of that age has already come to us and been given to us. And in some sense, the mechanism of that is trust, belief. Well, I want to be careful about that. What he states, I think, in paragraph 17 is not, he doesn't state the if clause. That is, he doesn't say, if you believe, then you have the life. Like, it's not that I doubt that that's true. That is a logical extension of what he's saying. But it isn't how he says it. What he emphasizes is the correlation. The ones who believe have it. The ones who don't, don't. The ones who believe have the testimony of the breath in themselves, the truth. The ones who don't trust make God a liar. He doesn't describe it as like an if narrative. He doesn't say, if you believe that Jesus is the Christ, then you will overcome the world. Again, it's not that I'm denying the logicalness. Like, that must be true. If what he says here is true, then that must be true. But that's not how he presents the narrative. He starts this with a rhetorical question. Who's the one who overcomes the world but the believing that Jesus is the Son of God one? Obviously. Yes, Stephen, you're right. In John 3:16, we get more of that if narrative, right? Sorry. Well, no, I'm not going to resist. I was going to say this is me resisting the temptation to go back. Why? Let's do it. Let's look at it. Let's look at John 3:16. Okay. Hutos. Gar. Okay. Hutos, does that mean like in this manner? Like this way? Yeah, in this manner. Look at that word for word. Okay. In this manner, in this manner, because God agapesen, loved, agaped, aorist tense. That was an event. God's loving the cosmon, which is the definite, it's the definite object. Um, God loving the world is a thing that happened, right? Uh, because God loved the world this way, Hoste, hey, that's a new one on me. Um, that he gave the only begotten Son. Notice, okay, no, there's no subject here. That the Son, the monogene, the one and only Son, he gave edoken. That's the gift verb. He gave, that's like what, that's how you ake something. It's like you end up having something is when somebody gives it to you. He gave the one and only Son, Hina, so that pas hope, each of the believing ones, each of the believing, the trusting ice auton, trusting into him ones, may apolitai, should not apple. Wait a second. No, that's a different word. So this is this is what the apostles say to Jesus on the boat. They're perishing. Ooh, it's what happens to the bottles when you put the new wine in old bottles. It's what happens to the lost sheep. It's the destroyed sheep. Wow, it's hardcore. Um, okay. So this is, yeah, destruction. This is a yeah, destroy, ruin in many different senses. Help us, we're destroyed is it's a little extra, but I'm sure it was really scary. Yeah, to put an end to. Yeah, because apolitai sounds like a negative, like the apo. So what's letai? What's the opposite of it? If it's apoletai, it's un. So apo is like un, right? We attach un as a prefix to words in English to make them the opposite, right? And they do, and that's what apo is kind of in Greek. Um, oh, it's right. You're destroying it away. You're just so it's a stronger form of destroy. So you can destroy stuff, and then you can just like, yeah, okay. Oh, that's fun. A stronger form of destroy. Okay. Yeah, do away with. Right. Yeah. I like it. I like it. Okay. So so God, having loved the world having loved the world this way, um, and having given his one and only son for the purpose that each of the believing in him ones shouldn't be blasted away, but should have the life of the age. See, actually, Stephen, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure that that is that kind of if narrative because it's not the premise. He doesn't say, if you believe in him, if you pisteo en eis auton, if you believe into him, then you'll have life eternal. I mean, again, like, yes, he's saying that. I'm not denying that that statement is true, but that's not even the logic of the sentence. The logic of his sentence here in John 3:16, God loved the world this way. Because God loved the world this way, he gave the son. Hina, so that. Why did God give the world? So that each of the believing ones wouldn't be blasted to flinders, but would have the life of the age. He wanted everyone who believes to have the life of the age. So let's skip the destruction for a moment. He wanted everyone who believed in him, the son, presumably, to have the life of the age. That's why. That's the hina. That's the so that. That's that explains why he did it. He did it, that is, gave his one and only son. He gave his one and only son in order that each of the believing ones should have eternal life. Do you see the difference? It's almost like the believing in him ones isn't the like belief isn't the initial condition. Like that's not the hinge. The hinge is God's giving. Is God wanted the believing in him ones not to perish, but have eternal life, have the life of the age. So he arranged it. He arranged it that the believing in him ones, it's like the believing in him ones were going to perish, as if it's not the belief that is the cause. God's gift is the cause. Now, again, it's all logically tied up. What did he give? He gave his one and only son. He gave the huion. And you can't believe in the huion if he didn't give the huion, right? So it's not exactly like the belief in him can be, in fact, antecedent to the gift, right? Um, but uh, but yeah, yeah. Oh man, Stephen, why are you tempting me out all of these sidetracks? Now Stephen is talking about what Paul says in Ephesians about grace through faith. Hang on. Grace through faith. Randall, is that dia? Is that grace dia faith through? Is that the preposition? I know, Jackie, there's so many side quests. Yeah. It's gotta be, right? That's gotta be dia. Um, right. Steven says, I do cross referencing, I do close readings, he does cross referencing. There we go. There we go. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, grace through faith, just like God speaks through the prophets. Oh my goodness, that totally changes my understanding. Well, not totally changes, but that informs my understanding of grace through faith. Um, anyway, okay, okay. Um, yes. So even here, even in John 3:16, there's a similar kind of like there's the believing in ones and there's the having life eternal. Um, and even then, he's not stating it as a condition. Notice, notice, Stephen, what is it that makes the English translations of John 3:16 sound conditional? And the answer is the word whosoever. Whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. Right? Um, But he doesn't say whosoever. He says, so that each of the believing in him ones, as one might guess, John would say, right? Aha, dia tes pisteos, through the faith, confirmed. Grace, dia, the faith, the belief, the trust. Love it. Okay, all right. I'm totally shutting down side quests now. Um, let's do one last thing. Let's look at the beginning of paragraph 18, because next time we're going to start in paragraph 18. So, paragraph 18, our second to last paragraph. Here's the reason. Let me explain why, with like 5 minutes left in class, I'm wanting to start the whole next paragraph, which seems an exceedingly rash proposition. The reason I want to do that is because remember, I told you a long time ago, I was like, I'm still kind of shaky about where this paragraph begins and ends. Like I kind of liked I still kind of like my initial vote there about where paragraph 17 begins and ends. But I want to read the beginning of paragraph 18 to see what we think following up from that. These things I have written to you. Oh, we get back to grapho. Oh, or agraphe or whatever. That's phenomenal. We've not had that in a long time. These things I have written to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, so that you may know that you have eternal life, so that you may have the life of the age. Yeah, these things I have written to you has kind of been a beginning of paragraph kind of situation. We can see how he's immediately building off of what he just said. These things I have written to you who believe in the name of the Son of God. Ooh, he reinserts the name here, the word name, which we haven't gotten since the commandment. So cool. So that you may know you have the life of the age. This is the confidence which we have in front of him. Just like paragraph 8 and paragraph like 11, wasn't it? That if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. Oh yeah, so we're getting straight back to the sentence that he said before. This is the big sentence that he said right before the commandment, right? Where the one where he says we have anything, like we will receive anything we ask for. So he's coming back to that difficult statement. This is the confidence we have before him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us in whatever we ask, we know that we have the requests which we have asked from him. Oh, okay. That sounds very much like John saying the same thing twice again. Can't wait to look at that more deeply. If anyone sees his brother committing a sin not leading to death, love it, he shall ask, and God will give him life, will give life to those who commit sin not leading to death. It's all about person killing again. There is a sin leading to death. I do not say he should make request for this. All unrighteousness is sin, and there is a sin not leading to death. We know that no one who is born of God sins, but he who is born of God keeps him, and the evil one does not touch him. Wow. Straight back to paragraph 9, right? Oh, yes. All of a sudden, we're sin and unrighteousness. And yes, Devorah, the sin leading to death thing. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I'm excited about paragraph 18 for the same reason I was excited about paragraph 17, for the same reason I was excited to study this epistle in the first place, because I don't understand this at all. Like what I just read, I understand a small percentage of, and I understand even less how it follows from what he was just saying. I mean, the first bit I can see, sentence 1, but the transition into sentence 2 puzzles me, and then the puzzlement deepens. All right, this is going to be so much fun. Okay, and this, of course, is our penultimate paragraph. So next time, join me for for paragraph 18. No side quests, Jackie. Absolutely. I know we had a little bit of extra time here, so I was happy to look back at John 3:16, a little side quest there. But next time, we're gonna buckle straight down to this. We won't get to the sin leading to death for a couple sessions yet, but we gotta make sure that we get there, right? All right. And actually, and yes, but to answer my very first question, I definitely feel comfortable that this is the beginning. I mean, one could make the argument that that first sentence of this is, a concluding sentence of the previous paragraph. It's not possible. It's not impossible, rather. Um, but yeah, he who has the Son has the life. He who does not have the Son of God does not have the life. These things I have written to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, so that you may know that you have eternal life. It's possible. That could be a wind-up sentence, but it could also be so it could be a winding it up, finishing it up sentence. It could be a starting it up sentence. Knowing that you have eternal life sounds also like the transition to having confidence before him. Um, because he's alluding back to what he just talked about, believing in the Son of God and having eternal life. Those two things are linking directly back to what he just said, but he's interjecting this new term that he was not emphasizing about knowing that you have eternal life. And that does seem like a transition into this is the confidence which we have before him. And that's what he's setting up. If you know you have eternal life, then you can have confidence. If you know you have the life of the age, then you can have confidence. Because remember, the life of the age. The age in question is the age when God comes to earth, when heaven and earth meet, when we will be in the presence of God. And so if we have that life, the life of that age in us, then we can have confidence before God, of course. Because now appearing before God will feel like home because we have that life in us already. Anyway, so yeah, yep. Okay. I think I'm going to stand by it that this is the beginning of the next paragraph, not the end of this paragraph. But thanks for checking with me and peeking ahead at what is to come. Thanks, everybody. And I will see you next time for the exciting beginning of paragraph 18. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.